So today I'm going to talk about national identity. Nations just don't see as citizens the same way as they used to. In this age of nationalism, globalization, and big data, we're witnessing a rapid transformation of identity, unlike anything we've ever seen before. Increasingly, in front of our own eyes, we're seeing the definition of citizenship change to include an electronic component for the first time. Now, at the heart of this is really three technologies. We have smart cards, we have biometrics, which is using physical attributes to identify somebody, and we have the unique identity number, which I'll get to in a little bit. Now, records used to exist in isolation, but now they can be brought together, enabling things like background checks, healthcare, and of course, government surveillance. And different nations have caught on to this powerful technology and are using it in very interesting ways. Here's some examples. South Korea, for example, is using a national identity number to institute an online curfew. China to enforce one-child policy. Malaysia has pioneered the technology of taking 11 different functions and putting it into one identity card. In Saudi Arabia, your national identity card includes a history of your Hajj visits. In Germany, they created a sophisticated electronic identity cards to encourage e-commerce. And in Estonia, you can sit in your bed and vote online with just your national identity card. But these technologies have gone far beyond government interaction, and they're now seeping into our daily lives. Here's some examples. It used to be that advertisers would just comb your personal shopping history to see what you bought, and then they'd track you across websites to see what you like, what your preferences are. But the ads of tomorrow are going to take this a step further. So in Japan, they have vending machines that scan your age and gender, and from that, they give you a list of things that you would like based on what you are. So how would you feel if your child had to submit their fingerprints every time they wanted to check out a book or pay for a school lunch? This question is at the heart of a raging debate in the United Kingdom, where now an estimated 1 in 5 schools use biometric systems. By the way, it's interesting to note that China rejected these systems because they did not fit their standard of human rights. So after September 11th, the Department of Homeland Security started to collect fingerprints from foreign visitors. And they got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but they made substantial progress, and now they've virtually eliminated visa fraud. They currently have the largest biometric database in the world, but they're about to be dwarfed by an unlikely source. Across the world, India is conducting what might be the grandest technology experiment the world has ever seen. They're taking their population of 1.2 billion people, collecting the personal information, fingerprints, and iris scan of each individual, putting it into the largest database of its kind ever assembled. Now with this, they're going to issue each person their own 12-digit unique identity number from scratch. Now the important thing to keep in mind is that India will be the ultimate case study for digital identity. Soon enough, the size of India's middle class will be the same size as this country's population. So, there's hundreds of millions of people in India that live below the poverty line. They're unable to verify their identity, which means they're unable to get the benefits they deserve. And in India, public distribution is an absolute mess. Every agency runs their own databases. It's full of fraudulent and false information, and it's really ineffective. So the question is, in a country where large portions of the population don't have reliable electricity, let alone internet, how do you have a functioning identity system? And developers are really looking to the cell phone as a key to connect India's masses to the benefits they can gain from this system. With just a cell phone, something to keep in mind, there are 700 million cell phones in India. There are twice the amount of people with access to a cell phone than a toilet. So, this can be a real game changer. The two villagers could use their cell phone, use their national identity number to send money back and forth between each other. This can really reshape the entire economy. But, of course, this is not without massive challenges and problems. The first being that this was instituted with very little public discussion and debate. Also, India really lacks adequate privacy protections, and they're years away from developing the enforcement needed to actually put these in place. Let me know if the situation sounds familiar here. There's a group of states with a porous border to an impoverished nation. And for decades now, illegal immigrants have been coming across this border. They're starting to inhabit that land and move to the mainland cities. The local population is furious with the national government for letting this happen. There's been ethnic violence has flared up. There's even been talks of secession, and smuggling has taken hold as a main economy. A border fence was built, but not up to standard, and has largely been a failure. And yes, we're still talking about India here. India has approximately 20 to 30 million illegal immigrants from their northern neighbor Bangladesh that they're going to have to figure out what to do with. Now, developers of this program have insisted that it is not mandatory, but this is not true. In one state, you need an identity number to get a gas connection, to receive public goods, or to be married, to have a car, or to be married. The New York Times recently published an article saying that this program is free and voluntary. So someone at the Times obviously wasn't doing their fact-checking properly. So throughout my research, I've talked to many people about this issue, and they say, this is fascinating, but this will never happen in the United States. And my response is, it's already in place. Here's 4 factors to consider. Our driver's license are going to be brought up to a federal uniform standard. Our personal information will be digitally embedded in these cards. States will share their databases among one another, and thanks to the Supreme Court, if a cop asks you for your identity, you have no right to refuse it. So, do we have an American national identity card? And these systems have led to an interesting social contract, interesting changes in the social contract. Thanks to Facebook and other social media, the line between our digital life and our real life is increasingly becoming blurred. And as an offshoot of that, it's going to be increasingly hard to move away from embarrassing things or unflattering details about your life. And increasingly, we're going to be relying upon algorithms to discriminate for us based on people's backgrounds or interests. And so really, we have to ask some questions about this. Today in our society, we really judge politicians for corruption and infidelity more than anything else. In the future, when we have cameras everywhere, are we going to judge people also for running stop signs or littering? Are we going to collectively lower our standards and become desensitized? Or are we going to specifically hold people accountable and stigmatize them? These are difficult questions we need to ask ourselves in this new digital identity age. But the important thing to keep in mind is that Big Brother is already here, but there's also potential for big reform. So prepare yourselves. The people of the world are going to experience a radical transformation in the way they interact with each other and identify each other. Thank you.